Welcome to LCS Talks. I'm Berkeley Glazer, and I'm the principal of Langley Christian Middle School. And with me is my co-host, Kevin Merchandani. Kevin is our Director of Instruction here at Langley Christian School. Today with us, we have Dave McVety, who is our therapeutic counselor, and he's going to be sharing with us. And as well, we have our famous producer, Dylan Bandera. Thanks, Dylan, for being here and putting all this great work to making us sound wonderful.
Yeah.
Kevin.
Hey, we are back after a little bit of a summer break, and we're really excited to continue on in season 3. So just to take us back to our first 2 episodes where we launched at the end of the spring last year, we shared in episode 1 a little bit about the formation of our K-12 Bible curriculum. We talked a little bit about how that came together, and it was really exciting to hear from some of the team members that put the curriculum together in our process. And then in episode 2, we shared a little bit of a recap of our year. Our principals were at the table, and they shared a little bit about their own formation and their experiences. So we are in season 3 on faith, identity, and Christian formation, and we are back with Dave McVety. We're really excited to chat with him today. And Dave, we're going to be looking at today with you, how do we order our lives in such a way that leads us to thrive in our faith formation? So Berkeley, back over to you for our first question.
Awesome. All right. So Dave, our listeners got to get to know you a little bit in season 1. And so just to recap that, why don't you share a little bit about who you are, your God story, the Cole's Notes version.
Cole's Notes. Okay. I'll do my best. Well, Jesus has been a part of my life mostly forever. Born and raised in a Christian home. I met or decided to follow Jesus. I remember, being in bed, I think I was 4 years old, and just praying every night because I was desperately afraid that I would go to hell if I didn't do it right, and I must have done it wrong. So, but, there's ebbs and flows in faith. And so at the time I was in Japan, I was born there, and Dad was a missionary out there. And over time, I grew to understand that it was more than just kind of as the oldest child, you just do all the rules, right? Mm-hmm. You want to pay attention, do the right thing, and you assume everything will be good. And then you pick targets like baptism. I'll feel better, or there'll be something different. It wasn't until a little later in high school that I began to wrap my head around what relationship with God is like, and what it means to encounter love, to receive from him and have the Spirit rest in counsel and comfort on you. That wasn't the end. I had some ups and downs, was in Bible college, was stretching my wings a little bit, trying to understand like the restrictions or perceptions around what rigid faith or Christians have to look like this. I didn't like that. I wanted to be a Christian, but I didn't want it to have to look like this cookie cutter version. And that didn't include, monstrous rebellious things necessarily, although I got a few piercings that people...
And tattoos?
That came later.
Oh, okay.
Well, but he's got some great ink. Just saying.
Yeah, that's part of my story too, actually. We'll get there in a second. In Bible college, I got married young, or sort of young. I was 23, and became a youth pastor, and really found kind of that God would work in me when I was translating things to share with other people. And that was part of kind of my formation and my growth, is the continuing kind of development and growth and understanding myself and what really brings me life and connection with God. And I just really desperately wanted to walk with other people. Thought about being a counselor early, but one of the things I was told was that you're not allowed to share your life with others when you're counseling them. And I was like, that doesn't feel right. Which led me into pastoring, because you get to share in life, walk with, shepherd, and really engage with people on a personal level. Was an associate pastor for a while after being a youth pastor for a long time, and then did marriage and family ministry, doing parenting conferences and marriage conferences to build up the home. And then God led me here where, I'm a counselor. And I find balance now in the midst of walking with others, discerning what to share and what not to, if for their benefit, especially if it's a part of my story. And I don't have to just never share anything if it's for the benefit of others. And so this place, Langley Christian, and being here with students and teachers has been really neat experience for me to just encompass kind of both worlds of the pastor shepherd heart, as well as the counselor.
So Dave, what are some of the developmental challenges of us becoming like Christ as we get older, as we have families, get invested in our careers, live full lives, and seek to still then pursue Christ?
Well, I guess this is an opportunity for me to share personally. For me, my current life circumstance is such that I have a grade 7, grade 12, a recently graduated, heading off to YWAM, and an older daughter who's married with 3 grandkids. So I have all the stages happening at once. So speaking of developmental or life stages or whatever, for me right now, not to mention career and my wife's career and all this stuff, it's more than a full life. And so it's really easy and dangerous, slippery slope to fall into just not pursuing God, not slowing myself, not making space. And so not ordering my life in such a way that I would be putting God first. And all the stuff I just mentioned causes me to feel tired and burned out unless I remember to order my life in such a way that I'm gaining his strength and he is giving me what I need. So it is a challenge because there are never-ending amounts of things that I can do. And I could say over and over, I don't have time for Jesus, but that is exactly the problem. And I'll find time for other things if I'm renewed and I'm filled first. And even this verse in Matthew 28, come to me all who are weary and heavy laden or burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And what struck me all the time when I read this passage, first of all, is that I will find rest, but there's still a yoke. It's going to take work for me to order my life in such a way that God comes first, but the result is rest. So it's not no work. It's not no discipline. It still takes effort. But it will be worth it because the result will be rest. In my life, if I just live it that way, there's no room for rest.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. So building on some of what you shared with this really rich biblical understanding of a full life, finding rest in God, what are some of the other key scripture passages in terms of being able to order our lives in such a way that we can actually see ourselves flourish?
Well, I, as a shepherd, one of my theme verses, and it's a little bit cheating because it has my name in it, but is Psalm 78:72. And David shepherded them with integrity of heart, with skillful hands he led them. And I get to cheat because it's David. But I've always been drawn deeply and heavily to the shepherd imagery. And so I love Psalm 23, John 10. If I am a participating sheep with God as my shepherd, and I put myself in that place first, then the rest of what I do will flourish. And there's all sorts of fun tidbits and facts about shepherds and sheep particularly that I've learned about and I've shared with others, including sheep are either the most damaging animal to the land as possible, if not shepherded, or leave the most rich fields and management of those fields behind.
Wow.
But they need a guide and a shepherd to lead them. And so I'll either wreck my own life and the lives of those around me, or I'll leave a legacy of flourishing behind, but only if I follow his lead. And likewise, I shepherd others in the same way and with the same heart. Hopefully, I'm just a dim reflection of Jesus, right? But hoping that I can model after him, even as it describes David doing.
Any examples in your own life where you've seen both those two effects, more of the harmful side, but then also that experience of where you've seen your family maybe perhaps flourish?
Yeah, I think the harmful side, I think the most prevalent that I can think of off the top of my head is like as a pastor, I would be, maybe competent in the skill sets, right? I could do the things, plan the services, whatever. But I hit burnout, and I needed to take a 2-month sabbatical just to recover because I was exhausted. I had nothing more to give. I was doing the tasks of ministry and serving, but I wasn't resting in him. Mm-hmm. I wasn't following him. I wasn't listening for him when he would say, don't do, that's a good thing, but maybe you don't need to do that right now. Mm-hmm. I wasn't leaving space for others to step in because I wasn't walking close to him. I was just doing what I thought he would want me to do. Mm. So that probably would be the most evident time of damage to myself. I don't know that I damaged others by his grace, but I definitely didn't leave space for others to grow and to fill that gap. And then in terms of my family, I have loved to walk with them and engage with them. And actually, it's been a blessing to be at the school and bring my kids here because I get to see what they're learning, to engage with their learning, to engage with them every day, drive home with them every day and just listen and talk with them and share back and forth. It's just a blessing to see my relationship with them flourish, but most importantly, their faith and their theology and their foundation of what they believe and why they believe what they do has been a deep encouragement for me, even when we're not getting along. Sometimes your kids don't like you very much. Yeah. But their faith and their belief is still solid, even in the midst of when there's tension.
Yeah. I've got a theory, Dave, that I'd love for us to quickly test. And my theory is that we can fully invest 100% in the things that we're doing. And it's actually because we don't fully experience God's abundant life that we become distracted and busy and taken by other things that would almost divide our kind of time and efforts. And so my theory is that we should be doing whatever we do at 100%, whether that's you're working as hard as you can on a project, or you've got this idea that God's been placing on your heart to see come through, or even rest, for example. And I think even in that example of rest, I wonder if we're not fully participating wholeheartedly in what that rest looks like. And I think that, and I remember you sharing it at some point, that those distractions and that noise gets in the way of seeing God clearly, and thus we aren't able to fully order our lives. What are some of your thoughts?
Well, yes. I don't know that we necessarily have a good, I don't know if any of us know what rest looks like. Sure. When you think of rest, what comes to mind? Berkeley?
Taking a nap. Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. Escapism?
Golf.
Escapism.
Yeah.
It could be games on your phone. Could be rest. I only have rest when I'm in Mexico or, spring break.
Yep.
Rest is in a school setting.
Yeah.
All the breaks from teaching. But isn't it more than that? Like, have we really experienced that? And some of us in our culture particularly really uncomfortable with silence or with emotion. What am I feeling? I don't want to feel what I'm feeling, so I'm going to go do busy stuff. Whether it's, work or video games or whatever you're numbing out with. Even more unhealthy things can happen, like alcohol abuse or pornography or things like that too. But in the end, learning to be still, which includes the discomfort of the emotions you may be feeling, and bringing that to God, knowing that you're not alone, is something we do not practice well. In our culture, in our context, we run away from our emotions or feelings, and silence and quiet feels wrong. But the whisper of Jesus is a whisper. And if you think of a whisper, you can't hear a whisper unless you're quiet. And you come close to the one who wants to share that with you. Like my grandkids come, I don't want the whole room to hear how much I love them. I mean, I'm glad to shout it from the rooftops, but it doesn't mean something special to that child unless they're held in my arms and I whisper it into their ear. but they have to come close first before they can hear that. Sounds great, but if we haven't done it in a while, it's really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But it's worth pushing through the discomfort.
Absolutely. And that just speaks volumes into you as living your life as a shepherd. And just so our listeners know, that little aside here, that Dave has an awesome arm sleeve of Psalm 23 that depicts a mural of a shepherd and sheep in the hills, and it's just totally him. And it's awesome. So next time you see him, just ask him to see the sleeve. But we're going to move on. So our theme verse this year is from Mark 12. And Mark writes, we're keying on verse 30-31. Mark writes about how we are to love the Lord our God with all our heart and our soul and our mind and our strength. Then he goes on to write, secondly, love your neighbor as yourself. So Dave, can you just unpack that a little for us and help us to understand that passage a little more?
Oh, sure. You want me to preach on Mark 12? Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think I like to start before that.
Okay.
In that, we can't actually, we can love, but again, if we're not careful, we fall back into what burned me out.
Mm-hmm.
I will love by doing, right? And it breaks down heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so what is that? Mind and strength, but where's your heart and soul? And what does it look like to love God with your heart and soul? It might start with letting yourself be loved. Mm-hmm. And is that not what it means when you think of loving somebody with your heart and soul? It's like being present. But I can't sit and be present with my wife and only love her without receiving love back. It's an experience of togetherness, and it does start with heart and soul, not mind and strength. So we can learn all we want, we can use our effort, our bodies, all we want, but have we missed the boat if we don't start where we're supposed to be, which is in relationship, allowing our souls and hearts to be filled, connected with, relationally. So don't get too far down the path without slowing yourself down and recognizing the discomfort that might be necessary. Again, though, we can do none of these things, or we'll just feel like we're running on a treadmill or a hamster wheel or whatever if we don't spend that time with God. And you can say the same for marriage relationships, parenting, whatever. You can do lots of stuff, but just being with them is what will communicate love to them in return.
Yeah, so Dave, we would love to go back to some of the work that you did with us last year when we talked about faith, identity, and sexuality. And in particular, I love that word soul because I think it speaks really deeply to a big word here, our existence, or more of an existential kind of nature. And that being said, it also means that our identity is part of the things that we use and the substance that we use to worship and know God and love God. And so I would love for you to recap a little bit of that emotion facilitated approach, helping us to think about how we understand, how we talk to ourselves and relate to God in such a way that we can order our lives back to that clear whispered spoken voice so we can hear God more clearly. So maybe if we can think of an example of being overwhelmed or stressed out or feeling the weight, that yoke upon our shoulders, and how we get to see and experience God. Maybe if you walk us through that emotion facilitated approach.
Sure. Additionally to what you're saying, like, I don't want this to be another thing you should do. Right? And that's related to what you're saying. The tendency, or our tendency, mine at least, is to be beating myself up. See, there's something else I'm not doing right or enough of, or see, I need to make more time for God, or I need to do. And I'm back into this whole cycle of self-defeated nature. I had a client come to me and just say, I know I need to do this and this. And I started to read my Bible again after 5 years, and there's shame in the way. Okay. If you hadn't seen your child for 5 years, what would you say to them when they walked in the room? You'd give them a hug. You're not shaming them for walking back and being here. And we carry our own shame because we don't do something rather than realizing and remembering who God is And then he's just so excited. The prodigal story, right? You're back. He's running for you shamelessly, showing his ankles. He's not allowed to do that. Why? Because all that he cares about is you and how much he loves you. It's so different. So self-compassion is super important, and that's what I'm hearing. So if you're running, well, looking at my life, I have to be compassionate to myself. Okay, I just spent all of Saturday with my grandkids. Now I got to go coach soccer, and wait, I got to get ready for doing Devos for middle school on Monday morning. And also, so there's so many things, right? So rather than, oh no, look what I didn't get to or didn't do properly, which will keep me from coming to God and trying again, from the whisper, from slowing, because I feel shame or discomfort. Self-compassion is a huge part of what emotion coaching is, right? It makes sense that I feel bad that I haven't come to God because I miss him, because I know that I want to do more. I feel that I should be putting more effort if I really loved him. It's okay. It makes sense that I feel bad about this. And after I allow myself to be okay, making sense that I feel shame or embarrassment or is where I can give myself, but he's with me and he's excited to see me. But if I don't validate myself and understand myself first and recognize the shame that I'm feeling that's in the way of me slowing down, I can't actually accept the truth of who God is. Does that make sense? And so validating myself in whatever I'm feeling, it makes sense that I'm avoiding God, that I'm afraid to come to him, that it's hard because I feel like everyone's told me what I should do, what the pastor is telling me every week is other things that I should add to my plate, or I need to get rid of the shoulds to make room for what could be. And what could be is a relationship with God and the whisper.
Yeah, just allowing ourselves to just be in the rest of God, in the quiet of God, and in the moment of God, and that's okay. Just allowing ourselves to believe that that's okay, just to be quiet and take time.
Yeah.
To pause.
And even validate, I'm uncomfortable. It makes sense that I'm uncomfortable with quiet.
Yeah.
Why? Because I don't do this often, because my cell phone distracts me, and because some of the things I might feel are uncomfortable. Yeah. It's okay for discomfort, right? Yeah. And so that's that validating process of self-emotion coaching, in order to open the door to allowing yourself permission to really encounter God for who he really is, instead of your own resistance getting in the way.
Dave, you probably have lots of shepherd types listening here with big flocks and lots of responsibilities. What would you share in terms of this opportunity for work, that shepherding work, that listening to God, being present? What would you share in terms of encouraging us over this next year, to educators, to parents with flocks, to people with a deep hope to take good care of those that are entrusted to them?
Well, I think I would start with, you're not alone. You're not the ultimate shepherd. That's actually on my arm. I have an image of Jesus as shepherd and a little child, and the little child is me. Because I'm a shepherd in training, who will always be in training. And every time I'm overwhelmed, I look to him, because his spirit is with me and strengthening me. And when I can't do it, he intervenes and is there. And I don't have to be the one. It's not all on me.
Yeah, the Lord is my shepherd.
It's not all on you. You've been entrusted a group, yes. But he didn't say, go do this alone and cast you into the wilderness with these kids or with these children or whatever. He's gone ahead of you, and he's prepared the way, and he knows what's there, and he would never lead you down a path he hasn't been down already. And he knows that you're still a sheep, essentially, right? That you're going to have downcast times where you're stuck on your back and you need to be flipped over, that you're going to need encouragement, and that if you miss something, he's got it covered.
Awesome.
Yeah, this has been so great to be encouraged and challenged by you, Dave. We're really excited about the year that we have ahead of learning together, of more growth. And our deep prayer here at LCS is that our staff in the work that we do listens closely to God, is discerning, but also thoughtful about caring for one another. And you've really equipped us with that framework for how to think about that in a really practical way. So really appreciate that. Just for our listeners, in terms of where we're going with our season 3 on faith, identity, and Christian formation, we are super excited to be talking with John Roberto coming up next episode. And John Roberto is a Catholic ecumenical thinker who works with interdenominational Christian formation, and he writes quite prolifically on lifelong faith formation. So we'll be continuing conversations about that, and really excited to engage with him. He's an author and works really closely with church ministry efforts across the generations. We'll be joined by Dr. Lynn Swanner from ACSI, some of our house directors, and Miss Wind from our middle school will be joining us. Our Bible teachers are going to show up at some point, and we just have a long list of really important conversations that we need to have in terms of what this looks like as a community of believers supporting, caring, and helping in the Christian faith formational efforts of this school community.
Yeah.
So really excited about that.
Absolutely. I want to thank Dave and Kevin. It's been a great session here. I want to thank you as listeners for tuning in. Just remember that you can contact us through our email, podcast@langleychristian.com, and we can get back to you if you have any questions for us. Again, thanks for listening.